It is the FTN Fast Break Podcast, Thursday, January 16th, 2025, episode 38. What is going on, everybody? Zac Graham, aka Kawaisenberg DFS, joined once again by my co host, Adam Pfeiffer. Adam with the new Bills outfit. I don't think I've ever seen that Bills shirt on you there, buddy. Look, it's playoff season in the NFL. This is the biggest Bills fan I know, so we will, as we have been for the last couple episodes, start out with a little bit of Bills Corner. How you feeling? We're a couple days away from the divisional round.
Uh, it's only Thursday, so I get to relax for like a day and a half.
You don't look relaxed, my man.
No, I'm not at all. No, I'm actually like, I talked about it though. Like last week, I was more like anxious because like there would have been outrage if they lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
This week, it's a battle of teams that I don't. Everybody's making a big deal about the Week 4 game. Like that was forever ago. I think this is going to be for non-Bills Ravens fans, like just a great time to just sit down and relax and watch football, and should be a really good game. And then for me, I'll be sweating for 4.5 straight hours. But I'm actually really excited for this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one game for me looking at the schedule during basketball season and such. Like, this is the one divisional game where I'm like, okay, like I want to sit down and actually watch this one. So good luck to you, my friend. And like, before we get to the divisional round game for your Buffalo Bills, we've got another battle for first place with your Cavs going on tonight here in Oklahoma City, or I should say up there in Oklahoma City. It is closer to my neck of the woods than up there where you're at. But before we get to that, I want to jump into the trade that occurred. We talked about the rumors with Yusuf Nurkic and Nick Richards between the Suns and the Hornets. So we do get a Nick Richards trade to the Suns, but it does not involve Yusuf Nurkic, Adam. So not exactly how we thought this would look. Phoenix receives Nick Richards and Denver's 2025 second round pick for Josh Okogie and 3 second round picks, Denver's 2026 and 2031 picks, and then Phoenix's own 2031 second round pick. So I guess from the Phoenix side of things, you get back Nurkic, you basically cash in 2 of those second round picks that you had, which I believe brings their draft arsenal down to just 1 first and 1 second between now and 2031, which is just damn near inexplicable and unacceptable if you ask me. But how do you think this Nick Richards acquisition affects the Suns this season? Because this is, while I don't personally think that this is going to do much for them, everything they're doing is very win now. Again, I don't think it's enough, but what do you make of this? Because I was a little bit shocked to see this play out the way it did.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just want them to trade everybody, so.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we talked about it because it seemed like this was the direction it was heading, except we didn't think, the players that were dealt would still be on the team or weren't dealt. I talked about it. Like, I think it makes sense for them if they want just more athleticism, versatility. Like the Suns this season, not that you'd expect it a lot with the way their roster's constructed, but bottom 5 in points per possession to the roll man. Richards gives you a little bit more of that. Probably a little bit better rim protection. And just somebody that like doesn't have like he doesn't, not that either center actually needs the ball, but Richards far less on a team that the center's probably not going to get many opportunities, but also a better offensive rebounder if you want second possessions for those scorers. It's just like, yeah, I mean, what the hell is going on with Bradley Beal at this point? And I don't, I think Richards is a good player. He's a good role player. He's having a good season given the minutes he's playing, but like he's not somebody that moves the needle for the Suns to all of a sudden be a team we think could really make a run in the West. So yeah, I don't really have much reaction. I just the surprise was really the players involved.
Yeah, that's where like Nick Richards, I think, is an above average backup center in the league, but like backup center. And the word is that he is expected to, once he's acclimated there in his new digs, that he's going to be the starting 5 for this team. So like, again, that's kind of the first thing that I point to where like I don't think this really upgrades them all that much. I do think this could make Mason Plumlee join Yusuf Nurkic on the bench for some DNP CDs sooner rather than later, because we know they like rookie Oso Ighodaro. But again, like, I don't think this makes me look at Phoenix really any differently than I already did, where they're kind of a middling team in the West. I think they can beat almost anybody on the right night when the offense is clicking. But we also know that Bradley Beal is still there and that he's not overly thrilled with his current role coming off the bench, and that they're looking to potentially trade him for Jimmy Butler. But you also got to keep in mind that this is a second apron team, so they cannot aggregate players in a trade, and it makes it even tougher then to not just like with a potential Beal trade and his no trade clause makes it tougher to send him out. It also makes it tougher to send Yusuf Nurkic anywhere. So like, what now with Nurkic? He's under contract next year, fully guaranteed right around $19 million. Playing with the trade machine, because this is a second apron team, it is very tough to, number one, find acceptable trade partners where you can even swap a 1-for-1 player or even a 2-for-2, right? That makes sense for the other team. We talked about Detroit 2 episodes ago being the team with the most cap space right now in the league and saying that it would almost be foolish for them not to absorb a bad contract or two before the deadline to help out another team, gain some draft capital, and, burn that cap space that you don't get back after this season. But because of the second apron nature of Phoenix, it would have to be like Nurkic for Tim Hardaway, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is expiring. But then you stick the Pistons with Nurkic next year on a guaranteed contract. I don't think they have any use for him next year with Duren, and they just re-signed Isaiah Stewart. Our boy Beef Stew there is locked up for the next 3 years after this one. So I don't think that makes sense. And Detroit, to take on a bad contract, is going to require draft compensation also in that potential deal. And we know the Suns now have, I believe, 1 first-round pick and 1 second-round pick until 2031. So, like, what are they, like, I don't think a 2025 second from the Nuggets is going to excite Detroit enough to take that deal, at least right away. I think they're going to shop that cap space around and try to get the best deal. And I would be very surprised if Phoenix is the team that can offer them the best potential return in a salary dump trade. So, like, do you have any idea where Nurkic could potentially end up? Because, like, if he is not moved, I think it's very, very tough to get him back mentally to this team if you were going to reinsert him into the lineup, which clearly Budenholzer does not want to do.
I have zero clue what the future holds for him. Like even the Charlotte made weird sense to me. Obviously, if he was the trade partner, if you want to just get those draft picks, whatever. But like even that was a weird kind of landing spot to me. Yeah, like this is kind of like just off the top of the head, just trying to think of spots, and I really can't. Like a lot of teams, obviously, out there still kind of using multiple traditional centers at the same time, so he wouldn't fit on a lot of those teams. I don't know. Like at this point, he probably would have to go somewhere to be a backup more than likely. And at that point, like, are you giving up draft? Are you trying to get? You're gonna have to get draft capital to have teams pay that for him. And again, like you said, like all of a sudden, Phoenix draft capital is just absolutely barren right now. So I don't have anything. I know you're the trade machine guru, but you might have some homework tonight because I don't know.
Yeah, like I thought about Washington at first. Like maybe you just swap kind of like outdated centers with Jonas Valanciunas and Yusuf Nurkic, but like I don't think that makes a ton of sense because Valanciunas is on about half as much money as Nurkic is. And do the Phoenix Suns want 2 more years of Jonas Valanciunas after this one? I don't think so. So yeah, man, it's a really interesting situation. Again, I'm on record. The Suns should blow it up. They should not be chasing any sort of contention here because I just don't think it's in the cards. And sacrificing 2 of the 3 second-round picks that you had at your disposal just to bring in Nick Richards. And I honestly don't think it's like that big of a win to lose Josh Okogie because you are already short on wing defense. You've got rookie Ryan Dunn, and Royce O'Neal can hold his own. But, like, to me, Okogie is like almost the break glass in case of emergency wing defense that you have there, barring an injury to O'Neal or Dunn. So, like, I think I like this a lot better for Charlotte, picking up some draft capital and moving a guy like Nick Richards, who again, like if you're going to, if you have plans to get up into the playoffs in the next couple of years, like I don't think Nick Richards is the linchpin of that. So anything else for you on this deal? It was a little bit of a head scratcher when all was said and done.
I don't think so.
Well, let's move on. Just one game on Wednesday night that I wanted to highlight here as we continue to examine the top end of the Eastern Conference on nearly an episode by episode basis here because of Adams Cavs. And I do want to talk about that game coming up tonight in a little bit. But the Raptors last night at home, but the Raptors beat the Celtics. And this was a full strength Celtics side. So like Boston now, Adam, I know you're loving this. 6-4 in their last 10. There is now a 6.5 game gap between the Cavs and the 1 seed out east and the Celtics at 2. They are now just 2 games above the New York Knicks, who are sitting in the 3 seed. So, like, and if you compare conferences, if we just open the standings up to the full league, Houston has the same record as Boston. Well, they're technically a half game behind. Boston has played 1 more game. But I don't know, man. Like, this is clearly not the same regular season juggernaut that we saw last year from Boston. And I don't think I have any long-term concerns at the moment, but I'm sure that there are some Celtics fans sitting there and not as happy as they would want to be. Do you have any takeaways from this recent, relative downturn? 6-4 in their last 10. A lot of teams across the league would take that, but that is very un-Celtics, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's always when you have a team like Boston going through these little somewhat rough spells. A lot of it's going to come down to it the way they play. There's volatility, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they shoot as many threes as anybody in basketball. When they make half of them or 45% of them, whatever it is, like yeah, they're going to not just win but blow a lot of teams out. And
Right.
I think I looked over the last 10. They're bottom 5 in the NBA in 3-point percentage off catch and shoots. So like when you're not hitting those, there's the volatility there. I also think there's something to be said about the lineups and the way teams defend the Celtics when they have Horford and Porzingis on the floor together. Kind of saw that a little bit yesterday against Toronto, where they were comfortable just leaving out Horford in the corner and helping on the drives with Jaylen Brown and Tatum. During the last 5 games, I think it is. I actually want to go back and look at the last 10, but I know over the last 5, Jaylen Brown and Tatum are both like well below 45% from the field off drives. So like I think teams are defending them a little bit differently. And then specifically yesterday, they kind of just said, you know what, when Peyton Pritchard's on the floor, we're going to attack him with RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, etc. And look, like these games happen, right? Like good teams will lose to teams they shouldn't lose to a couple times of the season, but it is a little concerning that the Celtics, it's not just been, yesterday. It's been, again, like you said, still above 500, still winning basketball, but not quite the same level. I think most of it's, though, there's a couple issues. I do think if you look at a lot of those lineups where they've had KP and Horford on the floor together, they're not the most encouraging advanced metrics. But I also think a lot of it's just going to come down to this is a volatile offense at times. There's going to be a stretch where they look like the greatest offense in the history of the NBA. And then there's going to be some stretches like we're seeing right now where I think Derek White in particular has also really struggled from 3 lately.
Yeah.
And, as important as he is, like that's going to hurt your offense as well.
I think opening it up to just the last 14 games as a sample size, the Celtics are 7-7. And I think when you look at that list of teams that they've lost to, it just kind of points towards this team, like you said, just being a little bit more inconsistent than we're used to. Losses to the Raptors last night in that 14 game sample, also lost to the Pacers, the Sixers, the Bulls. 4 of those 7 losses are at home. And this is a team that was 37-4 at home last year. So they've lost as many games in the last 14 at home as they did all season last year.
Yeah.
Have the Boston Celtics. So
and they've always been, even with Porzingis, there will be, we saw what Sabonis did to them. Like they're still going to have some stretches where they can be attacked inside. And I also just looked at it. It's only 6 games, I think, 6-7 games. But so far in January, Derek White, 27.5% from 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's very un-Derek White.
Right, and that's why I think there's a really good chance that 90% of this is just variance. And
yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, they clearly haven't been up to Cleveland and OKC's level, at least.
Yeah, and I think, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's just my antenna is up but I think my
Yeah.
concern level is like very, very close
Is
to
this
zero
is this kind of
still.
like the Chiefs in the regular season?
Sure, yeah, yeah,
It's like
that's a good
it's like
comp.
oh they're not blowing teams out and they're not looking like the same dominant team, but at the end of the
Right.
day they'll
And we're
look
not
like they'll be
betting
fine.
against them when we
Right.
get to the postseason, assuming health. But
And they cause me
we'll
pain. Right. Yeah.
right, yeah, we'll believe the Celtics are truly in trouble when we see it. But it does stand out in the standings here today on Thursday. A couple injury updates I just wanted to kind of rapid fire through here on episode 38. Adam, we'll start with the negative one, I guess. Isaiah Hartenstein is out for at least a week, so the Thunder's front court injury woes continue. So
Great
at least for
timing,
the
by the
next,
way, for
yeah,
tonight.
for you, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I don't.
But
I
I
didn't
like,
mean it like that. I was being sarcastic. It's awful timing
yeah,
because we saw what Allen and Mobley did to them with Hartenstein.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know how Jalen Williams, both Jalen Williams, I guess now.
yep,
I don't know how they can hold up in that matchup. But I love Hartenstein. This stinks. Hopefully, it's only a week.
yep.
I think he's been nothing short of spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think as a starter, he's averaging like a double double with like 5, 6 assists. He's been amazing. He's a perfect fit for what they want to do. And obviously without Chet, this is a massive loss because I love Jalen Williams. I think he's an All NBA defense player, and he's been good for his size in terms of defended field goal percentage at the rim. But Mobley and Jared Allen, it's just like that's a tough spot for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think like to your point about Hartenstein and how much credit he should get by being that stabilizing force in the front court with Chet out, because this is a team that if you include the 2 knockout games that weren't counted in the regular season standings, I believe this team is 18-2
Yep.
in their last 20, and he is playing such a big role as you pointed out. Like I do think they are, well, lucky may be a strong term because I don't think Jay will. Like we saw like 11 minutes of him in that first meeting between these two teams, and it was not good when Hartenstein was dealing with the foul trouble in that second quarter. But we'll see. J Dub and Jay Will, big task on their hands tonight. But we've got some positive injury news around the league as well. Start with this one. We'll see if it's positive because the Sixers are, quote, hopeful that Joel Embiid will return this weekend on either Saturday or Sunday. Sixers on a back-to-back this weekend. Luka Doncic is expected to return at some point before February's All-Star break. So that's less than a month away, Adam. And if you look at the Mavericks, right, they have slipped a little bit. They've lost their last 3. Kyrie has been in and out of this lineup, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. But because they were sitting in the 4 seed, that just has them a half game out of the 6. They're in the 7 slot, and they're still just 2.5 games back of Denver in the 4 seed. So, like, even if they slip another couple games down the standings before Luka returns, if you are within sniffing distance of that 6 seed, I would say if you get a healthy Mavericks for the last, post All-Star break, I would expect them to end up in that top 6. So, and the league is just better when Luka plays. Finally, Aaron Nesmith expected to return soon for the Pacers, and they need it because Tyrese Halliburton dealing with the hammy tonight on Thursday. Ben Mathurin also suspended, but Aaron Nesmith, who played such a big role for the Pacers last year in their somewhat surprising successful season last year, him coming back is good news for the Pacers. So a little rapid fire injury report there for some of the bigger names in the league.
Yeah, and with Embiid, just like what game was it? I think it was the Thunder game the other day when the injury report for Philadelphia was just a huge list, and it's just like getting insane. Yeah, please return because
Yes.
they I don't know how much longer Sixers fans can go with the way this season's kind of going. It's just been they get somebody back and then somebody else is out, and then they get somebody back. It's just been insane.
Yeah, it's almost been like over the last 2 weeks, it's been like they get somebody back and 2 more guys go down, right? We had that game two games ago. We were locking in Reggie Jackson and Ricky Council IV to our DFS lineups, right?
Yeah, I mean, their starting 5 for the Thunder game was like Reggie Jackson, Yabusele, Ricky Council, Oubre.
Eric Gordon, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that was the 5.
That's 1,000% a starting 5 you'd see in April.
Yeah,
not
except mid-January. Yeah, so the Sixers, 3-7 in their last 10, 2 games back of
we don't even know who this team is. We have no clue who this team is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not sure we're ever going to be.
I know, it's a sad part.
Because we are at this point for at least some of these teams have played 41 games at this point. So like we are basically this weekend we will be at the halfway point of the season. Sixers 15 and 24. Anything else for you on these injuries around the league?
Don't think so.
All right, so a couple games we are eyeing this weekend here tonight on Thursday, right? And I want to get your thoughts on this one. We talked about the shorthanded nature of the Thunder front court. Thunder hosting the Cavs tonight in Oklahoma City. Thunder are actually 2-point home favorites here, Adam. So you think the Cavs are going to sweep this season series here on the road, or do the Thunder get one back without a true center?
Part of me thinks these teams are both just so good that like I don't see a scenario where one team just sweeps. But man, like if they had Hartenstein, I probably would honestly, especially at home, pick OKC. Just because that first game had 30 lead changes. It was so back and forth.
Great game.
I just don't know how they hold up against this front court. Like there's front courts where you could just be like, okay, we'll hold our own. This is the stone worst front court to have to go against right now with the way that team is constructed without Hartenstein and Holmgren.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Cleveland. Also, like Lou Dort's amazing. I just don't see Donovan Mitchell playing as poorly as he did in that first game. And if that happens and Mobley and Allen dominate, like I just think it's gonna be too much to ask for Jalen Williams and Jalen Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would pick the Cavs here tonight too, just because of the work they did on the glass and in the paint on the offensive end in that first matchup. And
I think they had like 40 paint points in that game.
Yeah, it is certainly not getting better here tonight in the front court for the Thunder, but I do think it's saying something. Like you mentioned, right? How tight knit this team is, how deep this team is. Oklahoma City, rather. The fact that they are favorites here tonight with their top two center options sidelined. And again, this is another true battle for first place because the Cavs lost that game to the Pacers. These teams are just separated by a single game with the Cavs out in front. I also have my eyes on Houston and Sacramento tonight. Houston have won 5 straight. Shorthanded with no Jabari Smith. Tari Eason still has not made his return. So it has been the Amin Thompson show, and Jalen Green has been fantastic. But I found out this morning, Adam, that Amin Thompson's middle name, along with his brother Osar's, is Excellency, and that is spelled XLNC, all caps. His Excellency Amin Thompson. I'm a big fan, so I'm going to be watching Houston against the resurgent Kings. They did lose their last game, so they are 20-20, but still 7-3 in their last 10.
Yeah, and we talked about what changed for the Sacramento offense. The other thing we forgot to even mention with all the three-point shooting is Sabonis is like second in the NBA in three-point shooting behind Jokic. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
He's added that element. It's not like insane volume, but it's enough to where you kind of say, okay, this is a different element. And all of a sudden, with DeRozan taking more threes, like it's clearly been a point of emphasis for them.
Yeah. So on Friday night, my question here, you can see it in our show rundown, Adam, like Wolves at Knicks on Friday night. We have a doubleheader on ESPN. This is not one of the two games. How is this game not nationally televised? Like, I will skip shorthanded Orlando at Boston to watch Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle back in the Garden for the only time this season.
Is DiVincenzo going to do anything, or?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But Cat was also out last game, so like I'm hoping he is active for this one as
this
well.
This is a true like revenge game though, because there was the DiVincenzo stuff. So yeah, I guess obviously like when they made the schedule, nobody knew Boston or Orlando would be completely shorthanded. Right. Still, I agree. This should have been at least one of the two.
Right, and like this national TV schedule is set at the beginning of the season, right? Like we're not going to put the Wolves back, and I guess. This game probably,
and not even just that too. It's Ant-Man, Madison Square Garden. Like
to be fair to the league, I guess, like getting out ahead over my skis a little bit here. The national TV schedule is set, or was set rather, before that trade went down. Sure. But like, let's change it up, man. Like, let's move this game up a half hour
Yeah,
and give it to the
we
people.
flex football games.
Yeah. So I actually added this late this morning because of the way this game was so feisty last night. Memphis and San Antonio will run it back on Friday night. That
You're
is
very
the
lucky,
second
by the
game
way. You're very lucky
in
that
terms of
dunk didn't count.
whatever. Wemby is going to get dunked on countless times in his
He's
career
already gotten
because
dunked. Who got him last year really badly? But
well,
yeah,
Kobe White got him a couple weeks ago.
yeah. But there was one. Oh, was it from Golden State? Was it somebody from Golden State dunked on him last year? I forget who it was. But yeah, I mean Wemby
I
is
don't
going to
remember.
contest everything, so there's going to be the occasional poster.
Yeah. I don't think he is worried about it. I certainly
No.
am not. But the way that these two teams were chirping, especially the Grizzlies down the stretch with Bane and Ja Morant, very demonstrative throughout the game, but especially in the late fourth quarter there as they pulled away. ESPN game, man. Like, again, I would be watching this anyways, but I think this is one that folks who tune into as a third-party viewer with no fandom in this one, I think this will be highly, highly entertaining if it's anything like last night's battle. Then on Saturday, for me, like Cleveland's on the schedule. I want to watch Cleveland. So Cavs at Wolves would be my Saturday game to watch. And then on Sunday, Sixers at Bucks. I put this down because if Joel Embiid comes back and we've got a full strength Philadelphia team, I'll tune into that. Of course, this one tips off, I believe, before Bills and Ravens. But
Still
then
won't be watching it.
late that night, we have Lakers at Clippers, which is no longer the Staples Center or the Crypto Center, whatever, battle, right? This will be Lakers traveling to the Intuit Dome, and I'm very interested to see how the wall looks like that night, how many Lakers fans get out there as well. I think that'll be a highly charged environment now that the Lakers have their own, or the Clippers, rather, have their own arena across town. So those are some of the games that I want to watch here this weekend. Anything else for you, Adam?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the NBA doesn't exist on Sunday. But,
Yeah, yeah,
but
and fair
I'll tell you what,
enough.
if the Bills lose, the NFL won't exist on Monday.
Yeah.
So.
And also, fair enough. Let's close out episode 38 here, as we tend to do with stock up and stock down. I'll toss it to you first. What's your stock down here on Thursday?
Yeah, I don't want to like repeat some of the teams we've been talking about a lot, but it was kind of Boston for me. I just, again, it's not stock down to where we're like going crazy worried about them, but like kind of like you said, it's kind of like where you raise your eyebrow. I do think more of it's variance, but I also think there are some signs of like how teams defend them differently when they have both Porzingis and Horford on the court, like I talked about. I think it's like maybe is it stocked down to the point where like we are, because even when Cleveland was on that crazy winning streak, I still thought Boston was probably the better team. But I think we've probably gotten to the point now where Boston's probably comfortably the third best team in the NBA. Like, is that fair?
I think it's totally fair because I just don't think you can put anybody else right now above what the Thunder and the Cavs have put out there.
Yeah, and it's like
half of
like
the
you
season.
said, it's like a 41, 42 game sample size at this point too.
Yeah, significant enough where I think we can start drawing some conclusions. And again, there is still half a season to play, but I think it's more than fair to make some stronger assertions at this point of the year, halfway to February, here to begin 2025. My stock down here on episode 38 is the Brooklyn Nets and the offense to basketball that they put out there on the court last night against the Clippers. Because look, I am all for, until we change the rules to make it even harder to tank and get the first pick, they're doing exactly what they should be doing, especially after they started the year so strong. Like the fact that the Nets have 14 wins already, I don't think was in their plans. But like, we're turning the tank up past 11 now. 126 to 67 last night at the hands of the Clippers. Adam, this was the fewest points scored in an NBA game by a team since Dallas scored 64 in 2016. And I mentioned that final score, 126 to 67. After the first quarter, this game was tied at 21. The Brooklyn Nets had 25 made shots, 20 turnovers. They missed 10 of their 22 free throw attempts. Nick Claxton, I'm going to pick on because he played 17 minutes, Adam, minus 41. This was, like I said, an abomination, This was a disgrace to the game of basketball. You do not have to tank that hard to get your message across. Stock down Brooklyn Nets.
just just lose by 25.
Yeah, like go like, and especially because you get third string Clippers out there for the fourth quarter, and that's the Bones Highland mixtape show. That's Kobe Brown and Terrence Mann who got hurt, and Jordan Miller is out there. Like those Nets who are out there in the fourth quarter are not that much worse than what the Clippers put out there, and you still get beat 24-16.
Should you get penalized if you score less than 70 points in 2025 NBA?
Probably. I mean, I think the ridicule that these guys are now facing in the basketball universe might be punishment.
Because
enough.
it looks like when you look at the two scores, it looks like the Clippers played like 2K on like 12-minute quarters.
Yeah.
And then the Nets played on like 3-minute quarters and just couldn't score.
And maybe the toughest difficulty too, because dude, going into the fourth quarter, they were doubling them up. It was 102-51. It's just disgusting. Stop, double stock down, Brooklyn Nets. Let's close it out with stock up. What do you got here on episode 38?
I'm going with Cade Cunningham. We've talked about him, but I'm going to the point where now, he's having a better season than Donovan Mitchell. So, if you wanted to put him there, sure, but I think the Cavs have to have one starter. It's just, we're at that point where that's kind of what happens when a team's this good.
Yeah.
I think Cade Cunningham, though, should start the All-Star game. I think he's been that good. The Pistons are one of the surprise teams of the season. He is just improved in all aspects this season, averaging, 25, almost 7 rebounds, over 9 assists. I just, again, and we can't even make the case of oh yeah, but the Pistons have 7 wins. The Pistons are legitimately playing really good basketball right now. They're beating good teams like we talked about on Monday. So whether you put him over Brunson, Mitchell, whoever, I legitimately think Cade Cunningham should start the All-Star game.
I think that's fair, man. They're a game and a half back of the 4 seed in the East. And especially without the services of Jaden Ivey for the last 2 weeks.
He's straight up been better than again. Love Mitchell. I think he's going to start the All-Star game still. The Cavs are the best team in the league. But he's been better than both players that we think start in the backcourt. I think he's definitely been better than Mitchell. Brunson, you can definitely make the case for because Brunson hasn't been their best player. And Towns is going to start the All-Star game too, we think. But I think Cade should be in there. I really do.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. My stock up here on this Thursday.
It won't beat last week's. Won't beat Mondays.
It won't, but we are going to another one of my favorites, my namesake here. Stock up to Kawhi Leonard on the other side of that massive blowout on Wednesday night. Kawhi, we get the news pregame from Coach Tyronn Lue. Kawhi's going to ramp up his minutes. 23 points in 24 minutes, 8 of 11 from the floor. Helped fuel that 69-17 run that the Clippers went on. But Kawhi, in his 24 minutes, a plus 46. And I think the biggest stock up out of this game is we get the news that he's ramping up the minutes. Of course, he did not have to play the fourth, but he was pacing for right around 30. So if we get back to 30, 32 minutes of Kawhi on a night in, night out basis, and of course, still, he's not going to play back-to-backs, but if you can get to that number, then you're starting to get a little, not contender excited about these Clippers, but where they have hung now, right? There's still 5 games over 500 here in a West where that's good enough to be the 5 seed right now. And if we're starting to get back to full-ish Kawhi minutes, that's a stock up not only for Kawhi, but for the Clippers as well. So it's very, I love Kawhi still. You know that. And it was great to see him have a hyper-efficient game. And again, on pace to getting back to somewhat normal, especially for Kawhi.
Yeah, and I also just love watching the few players, it feels like. I know we have Shea, but the few players that still dominate the mid-range. Yeah, I mean, it's going to go down probably as one of the more what-if teams, this team. Sure. Also back when they had PG, obviously. But, yeah, anytime I can see Kawhi not just return to the court, but then stay on the court, it's a win for basketball.
Anything else for you here before we shut it down on episode 38 of the FTN Fast Break?
Nope. Excited to watch the Cavs tonight. Got to watch them primetime again on TNT on Tuesday, so that was cool. Getting a little bit more of these primetime games so I don't have to worry about trying to find other ways to watch them. So
Yeah, no, excited for that big game tonight, the games we talked about, and of course, good luck to your Bills, Adam.
thank you, sir.
Appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 38 of the FTN Fast Break podcast. I'm back on Monday with Mike Randall, recapping everything that happens in the basketball universe between now and then. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We will do the same. We'll see you back here on Monday for another episode of the Fast Break. Till then, he's Adam, and I'm Zach. Goodbye.